I can't really believe that I am saying this, but today is the much dreaded turnaround day. Turnaround day is always kind of an emotional but exciting day, but it marks the accomplishment of how far we were able to make it. We had planned out this trip to the T before we started from Bangalore. Plan was for a week of exploring the golden sands and then a week at the silvery snow of the mountains. But a wrench has been thrown into our plan once again by the all too familiar real life. But in hindsight, it was a great experience to witness the points of our military history. In all, we covered about 4 border points, each having its own significance. But to top it all off, the energy at the Tanot temple still rings my ears. Beat blasting percussion in a supercharged atmosphere. Now I have to admit, we were a little skeptical. 20 years of the internet often makes us feel we have seen it all. But have we? Chants and hymns echoed through its corridors. At first glance, it would seem like some religious mumbo-jumbo stuff. Or that's at least how my uneducated mind saw it to be. But when one pays closer attention, you would hear stories about this strange hinterland, where life begins and ends, but leaves behind the stories of those people in the bloody battles fought. The martyrs tasted victory at the cost of their lives, but the ones who were left behind lives on solving a puzzle of many dimensions. It was a narration of countless stories that took place in the desert, both in literature and religious texts, all with varying symbolisms. This is a strange place where a border security force Jawan sheds his gun, doubles up as a pujari and applies tilak to the forehead while handing out prasad to the devotees. A source of inspiration for the army due to the miracle that happened during 1965 Indo-Pak War. The visit to the Tanot temple marked the culmination of our border drive.
मंदिर में किसी प्रकार का रुमाल चढ़ाने की कोई प्रथा नहीं है. Why don't they remove it? The people who are staying in Tanot.
Because that is their faith. So faith should not be broken, right? In experiencing the world, we have a subject like you and an object like this video, which appears to be a separate relationship, the combination of which creates experiences and the collection of which creates your whole life. We can call this connection spiritual. Some parts have a God and the rest is us. In this way, there is also a dualism. The last few days I was trying to understand the duality of Jaisalmer. But now I think I have found an answer to this question during this journey. And most importantly, after visiting the Tanot temple. Human cultures in general, and perhaps particularly in the desert, landscape is the first shrine of tradition. Wedged between the vast wilderness of Thar, Tanot was born out of tradition and devotion, which forged the identity of this place. Now I can't say if there was a god protecting the soldiers or not, but all I can say is that acceptance is a part of life and remembrance is a part of culture. Now this Arati was a reminder for the young world that Jaisalmer is not about golden sands and luxury camp stays. It's also about the new default. It took some time and effort for this new default to come by. Life in the Thar narrates the story of human enterprise and resilience, of the indomitable spirit of its people turning a hostile land fertile. I don't think we can ever decode the spirit of Thar. It's a time capsule where days seem to roll into night and life carries on with a sense of timelessness. In the moments that followed, I recognized that something was shifting in me, folding me in its own with an undisputed sense of belonging. A tough determination was mounting that mirrored the harshness of the environment. But the desert is full of polarity. The sun-bleached land would fade away in the evenings to be replaced by the pastel hues of sunset, merging into the red sand. In this case, the desert can be seen as a blank slate, a place for reflection, a place where one can vacate the norms and restrictions of a societal structure and contemplate what capital T truth may exist. Life may be tough out here, but it is also simple, and you would feel an immense sense of peace in this vast wilderness that I don't think that can be matched in any other environment. It was pure, it was wild, and it was beautiful. When we got to the other side, I could feel the sands of time slipping through my fingers. Soon enough, we would be double backing on this road to go back to the city, only to be reminded how far we have come as humans. Which means we lose the opportunity to continue with our pursuits of exploring the other side, the Indo-Tibetan border, which was also a plan in this border drive. So I suppose that officially puts Rajasthan in the rear view and we are heading down south. It doesn't take long for us to lose the sights of our dreams, to trade curiosity for routines, to prioritize the mundane over the big picture stuff, which is exactly where I find myself, frozen somewhere between the life imagined and the life we expected to be. This is a very rare sight we don't get to see every day. My goodness, I would stay back in the desert for this sight where my Magnus gets pampered by you. This is some crazy shit happening on the roads of Jaisalmer. Vikram Betal stuff. What was that? Return journeys down south are usually uneventful. Nevertheless, I would like to call this as the southbound reposition. Bangalore is where we get to reset and retrospect before we hit the open roads once again. Usually we don't plan any stops during this reposition, but exiting the state of Rajasthan without visiting a fort would be such a shame. So for now, optimistically speaking, we are driving to a different land of Rajputana, which is 600 kilometers to the east of Jaisalmer. Jaipur, a celebrated land that holds plenty of promise for every aspiring traveler. From the incredible experiences to the delicious food waiting to be tasted. From unusual finds to exotic landscapes eager to be explored. It has a little something for everyone. But Jaipur always reveals itself in parts. As the morning fog dissipates and the sky turns bluish, we arrive at the crown jewel of Jaipur, the Amer Fort. But today's journey follows the conspiracy stories around this mysterious fort. When you step into Amer right off the bat, you can sense that there are some places that can speak to you. They have a voice of their own. History whispers, and those echoes of time are heard through its walls, even at its street corners. Old shrines rings with strange lures, and the streets of an ancient capital murmur untold stories. And the political conspiracies, of course. There are 3 ways to enter the fort: a 20-minute walk up the hillock, a ride on an elephant by the adjacent Mautha Lake, or by a vehicle through the old back streets of Amer. For either of the first 2 options, entry inside the fort's courtyard is through the Suraj Pole or the Sun Gate. Royal cavalcades, dignitaries, and the victorious army returning from the battlefields would make their grand entrance through this gate. But if one chooses to reach by a vehicle, the entry is through the Chand Pole, which was the main gate used by the common people like workers and tradesmen. So we are entering Amer Fort and we are taking Magnus all the way up to the fort. Driving into Amer like a boss. Climbing up like a boss. Oh, look at this climb. This is super steep incline. Still rolling. I think we can go till up there because I have come here on bike once. And I think there is a parking fee that I have to pay here. We are like looking up in the sky, right?
Oh my god. Why you
Just-
drove on birds?
Needless to mention, we chose the third option. Four-wheeling on the unrestrained cobbled pathways leading up to the fort. Look at this view out here. After a 12 hours drive from Jaisalmer, it was time to put some boots on the ground and hike around the precincts of this huge fort. There could be no better way to start this beautiful morning other than a lazy walk through the historical alleyways. Contrary to what many believe, Amer was not really built by the Rajput kings. The Rajput occupation of what's now Amer is some pretty interesting history. You're walking from the flyover. Perched atop a hillock, Amer gets its name from goddess Amba, the family deity of the Meena clan, a subgroup of the indigenous Bhel community. When we look at early history, Amer was first built by the Minas in the 9th century. Later on, it was taken over by the Kachawas Rajputs almost 2 centuries later. In the mid-11th centuries, the Kachawa Rajputs of central Rajasthan began heading east, and it took them above 100 years before they started settling on the mainland Dhundhar. It was slow expansion to the east and lasted until mid-1500s when all of the present-day Jaipur was taken over by the Rajputs. Annals and Antiquities of Rajasthan by James Todd becomes the North Star. where we can seek to get a peek into the colorful Rajput political history. According to the historian James Todd, this region before the Rajputs was known as Khogong. The Meena king Raja Ralun Singh was also known as Alan Singh Chanda of Khogong. He kind-heartedly adopted a stranded Rajput mother and her child who sought refuge in his realm. Later, the Meena king sent the child Dhola Rai to Delhi to represent the Meena kingdom. The Kachawas Rajput in return conspired and massacred the weaponless Meenas on the eve of Diwali while they performed a ritual called Pitra Tarpan. This act of the Kachawa Rajputs was termed as most cowardly and shameful in history of Rajasthan. The first attempt by the Rajputs to capture the fort was unsuccessful due to the thick fog and stellar security detail of the Meenas. But by the late 11th centuries, the Rajput clan had a strong foothold on the region beyond Marwar. Many structures of the perimeters of the Amer fort still carry Meena names today. After this massacre, most of the bygone structures developed by the Meenas have been demolished or reinstated by the kings who ruled over the area later. But almost nothing physically remains from that time period. The stone house hidden near the backyard of the fort is one of the few remaining structures. Even more interesting is that the structure is actually on the non-Jaipur side of the erstwhile border. Through all my digging, I could not find one single piece of recorded documentation on this site. But asking around town, we met several locals with oral history from ancestors that validated the Meena clan's story. What we witness in the present-day structure of Amer Fort, it was expanded or brought to this shape by Raja Man Singh I in the 16th century. He was one of the most trusted nobles of Akbar and also the supreme commander of the Mughal forces. Naturally, the fort complex is a beautiful blend of Hindu and Mughal architecture. The Mughal influence continued in the structures that were built by the successive rulers over centuries. This magnificent fort also comprises of an extensive palace complex, built from pale yellowish pink sandstone and white marble. It is divided into 4 main sections, each with its own courtyard. Early mornings are the best time to be in Amer, perfect for long walks and also to sit back lazily and indulge in some people watching. Watching just random people doing their thing. And if you want to skip your morning walk, the fort also offers tourists the most alluring attraction of riding uphill to the fort entrance atop brightly decorated elephants. Not sure about the royal feeling the riders claim to get, but just watching the magnificent animals climbing up the hills to the fort was truly a spectacular and unique experience for us.
The elephant traffic.
In spite of being subject to many attacks and assaults over the centuries, this fort has proudly stood against the test of time. Its vintage is beyond heritage, as it has been a silent spectator of the reign of many dynasties like the Minas, the Kachawas, and the Rajputs. The beauty of the fort cannot be explained unless you see it for real. The only reason that this story ended up on my radar is because of the people of Jaipur. A local told us the story of the stone house which often gets neglected in the glamour of the magnificent Amer fort. So I want to give a great big thank you to the community of Jaipur for all the hospitality and support. As we roll out of Jaipur today, the southbound reposition continues as we hit the tarmac, making our way down to Bangalore. Now this is Crazy 101. I started from Jaipur for Gwalior and took a wrong turn and ended up at Agra, standing near to Taj Mahal. This is awkward, but I guess let's do it.